to see if they can answer the questions that were posed to us this evening by the folks that have been listening to our group meeting. These have not been answered, and from what I'm gathering from the comments, they got shined on. In other words, the park people never did tell the people what's going on. They haven't told us how the water's going to be handled for this, how the sewer is going to be handled for this, how are we going to get circulation to and from this park. I'm all for a park. We've been trying to get a park at Alpine for, what, 20 years? Probably more. I mean, I've been on the board for quite a while, and I know as far as trying to find a place to build one. I know Glenda and Jim Archer were beside themselves trying to find a place that we could actually build a park that would be suitable for everybody in Alpine. So I really think that I would like to make a motion to table this till we have more input from the county and for another meeting and get more input from the people in Alpine. Now, I know when we get panelists answering questions or giving us support, you're going to say just like Al did, you're mostly going to get negative. But we don't know how many positives. So we got to weigh the positive and negatives to see that we make the right decisions. I know, for instance, we tried on this 38-unit apartment complex in Alpine. We put a lot of effort into that, and we didn't say no just because we didn't like the people that were bringing the project to us. We said no because we had some tremendous safety issues. So we have the best interests of Alpine at heart. This whole committee does. So I hope the residents of Alpine realize what we try to do for the citizens of Alpine and for ourselves. I like to wake up in the morning and not feel guilty that I made a bad decision when it comes to the people of Alpine. So anyway.
I second your motion, Mike.
Thank you.
Point of order, Jim. Got a motion on the floor, and we can, I want to go through all the discussion, and then we'll decide if we pull that motion, right? Kippy? Actually, I'll go to George, and then I can come back to Kippy. George, you're muted. George, you're muted.
Yeah, my wife probably muted me. I made a point of going through and reading all the comments that people put up on the chat and the question and answers, and it kind of boiled into two bottoms for me. One of them is environmental impact, and I have my own views on that, but I guess what I'm thinking of, Lori Bradley, you know, how far away are we from a final EIR or whatever document that we have? Because I think then we can definitively answer the kinds of environmental concerns people have. The other aspect is, and just seconding Jim and Mike on this, is that you can have the view where a project in itself does not appear to impact the roadways, but the roadways never get looked at in detail. And I know in some part, an environmental review is supposed to include traffic and pedestrian traffic and so forth. And the DPW and our planning and traffic engineers, I think it'd be good for somebody from the county to come back with its resources and address the repeated concern over and over about traffic and about kids. So I see that a little bit different than maybe perhaps other people do. The other thing that's kind of interesting is again, and you know, for disclosure for everybody, I'm with the Backcountry Land Trust. But this area that we're talking about is roughly 380 acres. The Land Trust owns some, a private developer owns some, the county owns some. The private developer we're negotiating with to conserve that property. The county wants to conserve the balance of its property not used for the park. And that would kind of indicate that 25 acres out of 300 acres of open space would be this park. So I'm kind of thinking 6 or 7% of the whole area. That I'm comfortable with that personally. So it's not, I'm sure it's just not going to damage the whole rest of the 380 acres. But that gets back again, Lori Bradley, these things are going to be examined in quite some detail on your environmental studies. And until you guys are through it enough with Wildlife Agency input enough, I understand you can't factually explain what these impacts might be. So I'm kind of inclined to like the idea of having another round of discussions, at which time the county can come back, traffic safety and environmental impact. Other than that, we came up here looking for a park. Our youngest son was in school. His youngest son's now getting ready to graduate from high school. So we really need to have something for kids in this town. But again, what are the real economic impacts? That's still coming. What are the real traffic and safety impacts? That's still coming. So I'm kind of in favor of deferring the approval and having another go and look at this stuff.
Linda?
I agree. They're putting way too many things in there. I'm definitely against the barbecue pits. I think that the garden is